Welcome to this explainer. Okay, we're going to jump right in today and look at a massive contradiction coming from one of technology's absolute biggest leaders. We spend a whole lot of time talking about how to deploy new tools, but today we are looking at the actual architecture of competitive advantage itself. And it all starts with a warning that honestly might just change how you build your organization from the ground up. So Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, and crucially, the man whose company literally sells you the cloud, recently dropped this totally unexpected warning on X. He said, "A frontier without an ecosystem is not stable." Now, this wasn't some polished product launch. It wasn't a corporate PR statement. It was just a casual weekday post. But it cut completely against the standard vendor messaging that we are all so used to hearing. And it creates this wild mystery, right? Why on earth would the head of the world's second-largest infrastructure provider, a company that sells Azure, Microsoft 365, Copilot, tell you that renting your tech stack is the most dangerous thing you can do right now? I mean, when Nadella gives advice on your technology footprint, you kind of expect the answer to end with a Microsoft logo. But here, he's handing us a vital piece of strategy that totally transcends any single vendor.
Let's unpack this. In Section 1, the Cloud King's Warning, Satya Nadella's message.
To solve this mystery, we have to look at what Nadella is actually arguing here. He's saying your organization absolutely must own the specific layers of technology where your learning and your differentiation actually take place. Notice his deliberate phrasing there. Not rent them, not subscribe to them, own them. Coming from someone whose entire business model is selling you the rental, that's a huge statement, and it definitely demands our attention.
Which brings us to Section 2, the continuous loop, and why this changes everything.
Think about how technology has evolved over the years. Previous waves, like the PC, the web, mobile, even the cloud, they simply amplified human efficiency. They were strictly one-way tools. The expertise still lived entirely inside the people, and the tech just served those people. But AI completely breaks that pattern. It introduces a bi-directional loop. The system learns from the people using it, and the people learn from the system, reflecting their patterns right back to them. Knowledge is flowing in both directions, compounding over time. It acts way more like a shared mind than a traditional tool.
And that shared mind leads us right into a massive risk. Think about it. If that cognitive loop lives completely outside your walls, like in some general-purpose model you just rent via an API, or an assistant you configure but don't actually control, well, your hard-won workflows and domain knowledge become nothing more than training data for someone else. Your competitive advantage, which you've built over years of failures and deep institutional knowledge, simply becomes a generalized commodity available to literally any competitor who pays the exact same subscription fee. You're just feeding someone else's flywheel.
Let's dive into Section 3, two kinds of capital, human versus token.
So, how do you actually survive this era? You've got to build two things at the exact same time. First is human capital. This is what companies have always competed on. Your team's judgment, their relationships, their ingenuity, and all that unwritten tacit knowledge. But now, you've got to pair it with token capital. This is the proprietary AI capability that you actually own and control inside your own walls. We're talking about fine-tuned models trained on your specific data, internal agents that encode your unique processes, and your own proprietary reasoning loops.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real moat for any modern organization. Human capital teaches token capital, and in return, token capital amplifies human capital. When this coevolution happens entirely within your own ecosystem, the compounding effect is just massive. Because it's not just about having the most data or the best algorithms, it's about the genuine integration of your people and your systems, all running inside an architecture that belongs exclusively to you.
Moving right along to Section 4, owning the right things, and figuring out where your value actually lives.
Let's be real for a second. Nobody owns everything, not even close. Even Satya Nadella relies on outside providers. When he goes home, he connects to an internet provider that isn't Microsoft. He uses a mobile operating system his company doesn't make. His house runs on the standard electrical grid and municipal water systems. You are going to use AWS, or Azure, or Google Cloud. You're going to use someone else's database. Renting basic infrastructure is just the reality of the modern economy, whether you're a solo developer working out of a coffee shop in Dallas or a massive global enterprise.
So the real question isn't if you're going to rent cloud servers. Like we said, everyone rents infrastructure. The absolutely crucial question you have to ask yourself about every single tool and platform is this: does the specific layer where your unique value is created, stored, and amplified belong exclusively to you? Use the cloud for what the cloud is good at, for sure.
but you have to use your own stack for the things that make you irreplaceable.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, Rethinking Fine-Tuning to Protect Your Value.
All right, let's get practical. How do you stop feeding an external platform's loop? You need serious intentionality. Here are 3 countermeasures you can take right now. First, fine-tune on your own data wherever you possibly can. Second, build internal agents that actually encode how your specific organization thinks instead of just relying on generic off-the-shelf configurations. And third, lock down those proprietary reasoning loops. That unique decision logic that makes your organization tick, it absolutely must stay inside an architecture that you control.
We actually need to rethink the word fine-tuning here for a second. Often, we just default to the highly technical definition, the heavy, super expensive infrastructure of training model weights on massive data sets. But in this context, fine-tuning means developing a unique perspective and a distinctive methodology. It's about encoding your organization's accumulated thinking into exactly how you use these tools. Whether you're a boutique firm with a hard-won point of view or a scrappy startup, that kind of fine-tuning simply cannot be replicated by a competitor who just goes out and buys the same software subscription. It lives entirely in how you operate.
Which brings us full circle, right back to Nadella's core warning. In an era where AI can absorb expertise at literally unprecedented speeds, the organizations that survive, the ones that truly thrive, will be the ones that ensure that absorption happens strictly inside their own walls. They enrich their own systems, they build their own memory. The frontier genuinely belongs to those who build ecosystems, not those who merely rent them.
Ultimately, in this new AI economy, understanding that distinction is the whole game. The stack is either yours or it belongs to someone else. There's really no in between. If your unique value, your team's hard-won knowledge, and your cognitive loop are just passing through a rented API, whose future are you building today? I really want you to think about that as you look at your own tools and workflows this week. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.